Don't do that, or I'm gonna
I'm so
strangle you. It's irrelevant. That's
Joe
irrelevant.
Rogan himself,
Let's go back to the
hypercritical of
question.
vaccines.
The question is
just Joe Rogan
is
spreading
Joe Rogan doing
misinformation.
damage?
Yes.
And my point is, free speech never does damage.
Never does damage.
Never does
ever.
damage. Wow.
Are we talking about chastity belts for the
I'm
Ottawa?
so mad that I
truck
predicted
drivers?
the next 5 years of your life.
You are literally Larry the Tomato Red right now on my screen. Okay, there's no way that I'm the mad one here. All right, slow down.
This from some video games.
Okay.
A guy plays video games.
You're
on
out of line.
Twitch
You're way out of
and
line.
he's talking.
Hold on. Excuse me.
Do something. You're literally on your ass for a living. Get up.
We do have to.
What is mRNA, Destiny?
What do you mean? Do you want the abbreviation, messenger ribonucleic acid?
No,
do you want the
what is
function
it,
that it
though?
goes through ribosomes in your body and it's used to create
What's
proteins?
the concept? What does it do? Like,
what is it?
What is the technology? What cars are mobilized vehicles that are powered by gas.
The technology is you have a bunch of nanolipid particles, NLPs, that encompass a single strand of mRNA that goes into your cell, enters your ribosome, and then proteins are printed out that emulate the protein signature of the virus SARS-CoV-2. That's the function of the mRNA vaccine. Thanks for having me. Just to be clear, I should have said this in the intro. The original email you sent was related especially to the coronavirus, the COVID-19, the pandemic coverage and everything, yes? So I believe that over the past year especially, if not in the history of all of media kind, I think that media has definitely made mistakes in regards to how it covers a lot of events that have happened in the United States. I think that we've seen a few famous blunders in the mainstream media recently that give us some pause and maybe some concern for how some of these events are being covered. I think it's totally fair for people to be critical of mainstream media, and I think that alternative media can be really valuable for holding mainstream media accountable for some of their opinions. That being said, I think that alternative media needs to be critically evaluated in the same way that mainstream media is evaluated as well. I feel like when we look at mainstream media, people are very keen to analyze all the financial motives, all of the contraindications of things they're saying, all of the different reasons why the mainstream media might be dishonest or not forthcoming about something. But when it comes to alternative medias, we seem to drop all of that criticism, all of that critical evaluation to the wayside, and we just believe what they're saying because they're giving us a story that the mainstream media is not giving us. When it comes to the coronavirus or COVID-19 or the pandemic, I think that Joe Rogan has had a number of conversations on his podcast, but I think it's evident by looking at how his audience engages with his content that the overwhelming amount of attention that he's given has been to what I would characterize as conspiracy theorists on his program. And I think that most of the information that he disseminates is blatantly false, if not bordering on malicious conspiracy theory. And I think that him presenting these things as two equivalent sides to a debate is dishonest. And if he was doing it as a mainstream media player, we would be far more critical of him than we are as him being an alternative media person. So I would say that Joe Rogan has done more harm in regards to the pandemic for information that's being spread into society than he has good in terms of hosting alternative viewpoints.
You got it. Thank you very much for that opening. And then Gavin, for you as well, thanks so much for being with us. If you'd like a few minutes for your opening, the floor is all yours.
I mean, I think I want to concede. That was great. And I agree with Destiny. I think we're done here.
All right. Well, that was a lot of fun. Cool.
It's like a fight when there's just a knockout, like a Tyson knockout at the beginning. Like the crowd all has to go home now. I think that the assignment here seems to be a little bit amorphous. The email I got said, has Joe Rogan's coronavirus reporting done more harm than good? And I mean, it's all basically the same argument, but if we should start with the original assignment, and that was the original assignment. And I think the problem with that assignment is it sort of splits into two. And the two things are, one, is there such a thing as misinformation, and should there be total free speech and should be able to say whatever you want, which I believe. And I think that's impossible to argue. So what I would suspect that Destiny would want to do is get away from that and say that we need to be, the vaccine is very important and we're in a pandemic and you can't afford to even flirt with anti-vaxxers because people will die, and that trumps free speech. So the assignment was, should Joe Rogan not be doing these COVID things? And I think the only way to win a question like that is to say the vaccine is crucial. We're all going to die. So can we sort of narrow it down to that? Because obviously we all agree that alternative media should exist, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. So even if you think that Joe, to go with the new evolution of this assignment, even if you think that Joe Rogan is doing more harm than good, we all agree that he should have the right to do so.
In terms of the right to do so, I think probably. I don't want the government stepping in and making laws against who can say what. I think that's a little bit weird. Although I think we're all largely not interested in that conversation anymore because social media platforms have so much power that the legality doesn't matter anymore, right? If Facebook and Twitter all come together and say, hey, we're not going to host your speech, or Spotify in this case, it really doesn't matter if it's legally protected by the government. You're still pretty screwed in that case.
Yeah, but we're all, but outside of the law, we're talking about what should happen. And do you agree that, Destiny, I'm talking to you, obviously, do you agree that we should have free speech for everyone? Joe Rogan should have the ultimate right to talk to flat earthers and people who think that the sun gives you all the nutrients you need and all that shit.
If you want to have the conversation, sure. But I guess I'm less interested in should you have the right to do something, and more interested in the conversation, what's your responsibility to society or the public at large? How should you be platforming these conversations?
So let's recalibrate now. Let's restart. And the new assignment is, has Joe Rogan's show done more harm than good in the past 2 years, specifically related to COVID? Yeah. And the fact that the idea whether he should or not have a platform is now extinguished.
Sure. Yeah, we don't. I imagine we'll probably come back to that, but yeah.
Okay, good. I think we're in such a nebulous time that how the fuck do you quantify if Joe Rogan's? We're really talking about two podcasts, right? We're talking about the Malone guy and the doctor, and we're saying, have those interviews done more harm than good? That's specifically what we're arguing about right now.
Yeah, I think essentially for the coronavirus stuff.
And I don't see how you could argue that information is bad.
Sure. So this is a kind of an odd question. Did you ever see a long time ago when Jon Stewart went on Crossfire? Some people would argue that he got the show shut down. You familiar with this?
Yeah, it's a huge pet peeve of mine.
Okay. Well, I don't know where you stand on it, but
I stand on that he did not shut Tucker down. Tucker had a new job.
Okay, sure. Maybe he didn't shut it down.
And they brought on a comedian to be a funny guy, and instead of being funny, he totally fucked them over and went on the attack.
Gotcha.
And destroyed the whole segment and used it as a propaganda piece based on bow ties and negligence.
Sure. So, ignoring our personal feelings about what happened, I think that Stewart made a good point that the concept of the show was really cool. The idea that you could have political debates from both sides and you could see an opinion fleshed out in the middle based on the tension between these two positions. But I think Stewart's issue is that it felt more like theater. And when I look at Joe Rogan, I feel similarly. When Joe Rogan talks about some of these issues...
Dude, there's way more theater in this than on a Joe Rogan episode.
We can agree to disagree, or maybe you're very theatric, but okay. I think that when Joe Rogan has conversations with people, especially like the Robert Malone episode, I think the issue is that it could be really cool to bring on a variety of people and really hammer out both sides of this debate. Are there issues with the vaccine? Do we really need to be masking children? Those are cool arguments to have, but it's not just people that are coming on and presenting different tidbits of information. It's people like Dr. Malone that come on and essentially engage in conspiracy with a bunch of facts that aren't true or supported. And then Joe is very critical of one side.
A bunch of conspiracy without with facts that are not true and are not supported.
Yeah, correct.
So so Dr. Robert Malone was just spewing a bunch of fake facts that are not supported.
Correct.
I think he was spewing a bunch of facts. Some of them are controversial. Some of them are open to debate. But to call them conspiracy theories and lies is a stretch.
Well, So, I mean, we can get into individual things. So, for instance, when Dr. Robert Malone talks about how hospitals are coding patients to die in a certain way, that they've died from COVID-19 just so they can get kickbacks and money, and then later on goes to cite
that's a great example. I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay. So that would be an example of a lie. This isn't reported anywhere.
No, it's not a lie. Mm-hmm. It's not a lie. You see, there's some gray here. We're talking about incredibly complex stuff, which is bizarre that a stripper from Louisiana and I, a Canadian drunk, are having a debate about how hospitals fill out paperwork. But when these people fill out the paperwork, it is advantageous to everyone to make sure COVID is there. And by the way, this is not doctors like killing people so they can get money back. This is doctors making sure they include COVID so they don't get sued for malpractice when the guy dies and they find COVID in him and COVID wasn't listed on the death certificate and they go, what the fuck? Where's the COVID? We're suing you. So there's all kinds of litigation and financial sort of a push to make sure COVID is on these cases. It's not a lie. It's not a conspiracy theory. These are general patterns in hospitals. For example, if you're a doctor and you're working at a hospital, there's a thing called leaking, where if you say, okay, you've got fucking eye dandruff, and if I send you to the Selsun Blue expert who's down the street, and that has nothing to do with the hospital, you're leaking. You're sending a patient out of our hospital to somewhere else. That's bad for business. Now, you're not going to get fired for that, but we encourage you not to leak. We encourage you to keep everything within the hospital. And if you do that over a long period of time, your career is going better. So these are sort of general ebbs and flows and movements. They're not lies or conspiracy theories. It is currently advantageous to include COVID when you're reporting about a death or an illness, because you might get sued if you don't, and the hospital generally prefers it. You don't get a fucking $10,000 check and a wink when you walk out the door. So this is the problem with the interpretation of Malone's stuff.
So what do you think Malone is trying to say when he presents those facts?
Malone is trying to say that we have totally ignored financial implications of this disease, both from the recording of it and the administering the treatment of it.
So what Malone is trying to get at is the idea that there are deaths being coded as COVID-19 deaths that shouldn't be. That's what he's trying to say. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Yes, he's saying in a perfect world, they would, if we didn't have these strange amorphous blobs floating around changing things, that yes, in a perfect world, it would just be you were in a motorcycle accident, you happen to have COVID, but it's not relevant here, it's not going on the list.
So, but the issue is that it seems like you have an understanding that hospitals have to code for certain deaths all the time. They need to. It could be a matter of billing insurance companies. It could be a matter of transferring to other hospitals. It could be a matter of having accurate patient records. There are reasons why hospitals code for deaths a certain way. The idea that you might get more money based on the type of treatment or procedures that a patient needs, this isn't anything new or unique with COVID-19. This isn't the first time that coding a death has been important for getting a financial kickback to the hospital. So to bring it up in regards to COVID-19, but when Robert Malone brings it up, when Robert Malone brings it up in regards to COVID-19, and when I've seen conservatives bring it up over and over and over again, the implication is that hospitals are lying about COVID-19 deaths, that a guy gets shot and killed. George Floyd, that was marked as a COVID-19 death. That people are saying the only one that wasn't actually. people are saying that these COVID-19 deaths are essentially being fabricated by the hospitals to earn money.
No, they're not saying that. They're not saying that.
That is absolutely the implication.
They're casting a very wide net in order to cover their asses. And I don't think you can dispute the fact that of all of these horrific deaths, I think we're up to 900,000 now, something like 96% had tons of other problems. So you have someone with cancer who dies. They also had COVID. We're not sure how much COVID had to do with the drifting into the metastasization of the cancer. So we just put it on there. We cast a wide net. You are trying to change that into that's a cancer death. Let's make it a COVID death. It's not that simple.
It absolutely. So, but there are other ways. There are other ways
with all
to do
this
these
misinformation. You and I are doing exactly what everyone is accusing Joe Rogan of.
Not at all.
We are currently spreading misinformation just by having this discussion. You shouldn't have me on your show.
Am I going to have to?
I'm spreading the misinformation right now.
Okay, so the issue is that the things that Dr. Robert Malone is saying, I don't know why you're denying it. Maybe it's a joke for you, but I know that you've heard and maybe even said the exact same things. The idea is that people are trying to say that the coronavirus is being marked incorrectly on death certificates in order for hospitals to make more money. That's what the implication is. And now you're trying to obfuscate by saying, oh, well, a lot of these people had comorbidity. Yeah, that's how diseases work. Of course, people with comorbidities are more likely to die. When being obese is a comorbidity for a disease, and like 40% of Americans are obese, and the older you are, the more likely you are to be obese.
You're talking so fast.
Then obviously,
you sound like Ben Shapiro on Adderall. I have to
obviously, there's going to be more people
just to make out the words.
Okay, I'll
try
to
to speak. Can I get closed captions for this?
I'll try to speak. Well, you don't even have me on your TV, so I'll slow it down a little bit. Okay. People
Take that less Adderall and more bourbon. Fuck.
Okay, in terms of who's done more drugs on camera here, I'm pretty sure it's you than me, okay? In terms of people dying with comorbidities and being more likely to have a comorbidity when they die, that's not like surprising. And if anything, that is to be expected. People who are old in the United States are more likely to be fat, have diabetes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of these things are absolutely true.
You have diabetes?
In the United States, believe it or not, you probably even have.
No, you have diabetes, did you say?
I said people in the United States who are older and obese.
Sorry, I get, it's like these things whizzing by my head and I have to sort of grab a word if I can see it whip by me like Blade Runner.
So if people are, there are other ways that we can look at like the number of deaths as well. We don't have to just say like, oh my God, all these gunshot victims had COVID-19 and that's where all the deaths are coming. We can just look at excess deaths over the year and we can see, oh, hey, the number of coronavirus deaths we're reporting seems to also be lining up a little bit under the total excess deaths we're reporting as well. It's not like we're just taking the words of the hospitals and be like, oh my God, 900,000 people died. Well, maybe they would have died anyway. That doesn't seem to be the case.
It does seem to be the case, actually. What are we at? Like 2.7 million Americans die a year. And it seems to be going up about 1.8%, which is what the population is going up. I think there's probably maybe a 14% increase over the past 2 years from the normal American deaths per year. But it's pretty clear when you look at the lack of flu deaths and other deaths that we are tunneling other deaths into here. And I don't think it's doctors going, I get it. I'll write COVID, so you give me a check. No, they don't want to get sued, and it's good for business to make sure COVID is in there. But
so this is just absolutely.
Please don't say
this is
that
absolutely not true.
I'm not saying that there's a motorcycle accident that someone writes COVID on the report, but I am saying that every cancer death, every fat, every old that dies, they make sure COVID is listed. The deaths per year are about 15% more than they have been before.
In literally
it's called a bad flu season.
In a bad flu season is 50,000 people dead, not 300,000 or 400,000 people dead. That's a bad flu season. You can look up the numbers if you don't.
No. Slow down. When you say 50,000, you're talking about forms that say only Spanish flu. No comorbidity.
That's
only
not true.
Spanish flu.
No, that's not true.
When they're doing this 900,000, it's all this other shit plus COVID. And also, those people weren't fat. If you're totally honest with yourself, you will concede that COVID is fat AIDS. We are living in an era of fat AIDS. And God is sending us a message. Yeah. And the message is, stop being so fat.
So that's just, man.
If you're an atheist, just change God with nature. Nature's sending us a message. You have an obesity problem.
Do you think that the flu is a special virus that targets healthy people and COVID-19 is a disease that only affects people with high comorbidities?
No, I think that the flu.
Do you think that the flu can kill you? And when the flu kills you, and when the flu kills you, it's fundamentally different than when the coronavirus kills you?
You asked me a question, auctioneer. He's got the name of a black stripper from New Orleans, but he talks like an auctioneer. You asked me if the Spanish flu affects only healthy people. It affects everyone. Mm-hmm. But back then, we weren't fat fucking pigs. Now we're fat fucking pigs.
Fuck.
So we die.
I'm super bored now.
Sucks.
I should have just farmed and rest.
It's terrible. Fats and olds are dying at unprecedented rates. But what did Joe Rogan do? Because this whole thing was supposed to be about Joe Rogan. What did Joe Rogan do that got people killed? Pray tell.
So we were going over the misinformation that was spread on Joe Rogan's podcast. And one of those things that appears like even you've bought into it is that hospitals incorrectly are marking COVID-19 on death certificates when they shouldn't be.
I never said incorrectly.
And every single country.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. You're interrupting. Excuse me.
Okay. Every country around the world.
Are you saying I have a more nasally voice than you?
Every single country around the world. Okay. is marking excess deaths, and all of them are seeing a marked increase in excess deaths that are more or less matching up with their COVID-19 deaths. It's not like we have the same number of people dying, but all of a sudden that guy with stage 4 metastasized cancer that, happened to have a cough on his last day on Earth, we're calling that a COVID-19 death. That is just not true. That's not happening.
Yes, it is.
Okay, well, I mean, if you want to Google excess deaths worldwide, you can see like 55 different studies and sources from every country, every first world country around the world that will disagree with you.
But we're all doing the same thing because we're all petrified of this pandemic. And we want to make sure that when you die in Italy of cancer and there was also COVID, you want to make sure COVID is included. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
COVID included does not mean COVID is cause of death. That's not what we're talking about.
But they don't know. They don't know what COVID did to their immune system as they were fighting the cancer.
If only there was somebody that had years of undergrad, pre-med, medical training, residency, clinical experience that might be able to make that evaluation when they're filling out the piece of paper determining what killed a person. Maybe some hospitals have these people around. Do you think it's possible? Maybe. It might be rare, but maybe some hospitals have them. Maybe.
It's not that simple, my friend. That's why you and I are not doctors. You can't just fucking sit on your ass and pull it out of your ass. When someone dies of cancer, how much did COVID affect their immune system's response? Do you think doctors are magic? They go, it might have really fucked their immune system. I don't know. But I'm going to put it on this form so I make sure that I've crossed all my T's and dotted all my I's.
Writing that somebody had COVID-19 is not the same thing as saying their cause of death was COVID-19. There is not, again, if you look at the excess deaths, if you look at the excess deaths in the United States, it's not like, oh my God, we have 200,000 COVID deaths, but only 20 lung cancer deaths this year. Wow, we must have gotten really good at dealing with smokers in society. And maybe those vape pens aren't as bad as all the other old people say they are. That's not what's happening. We're still seeing deaths all across society in relatively expected numbers, but there is a big excess death that seems to pretty conveniently line up with, man, these are also the reported case for fatality rates for the coronavirus.
How many Americans died this year died in general?
I don't know the numbers for on February 5th.
Ballpark.
How many?
Give me a ballpark.
I truly have no idea.
Okay, is it 100? Give me a ballpark. How many Americans die every year? We're at 331 million people. How many Americans die every year?
How many Americans die every year in the United States? If I had to guess, it's probably in the low millions.
Well, I already told you at the beginning of this debate, you dunce. It's 2.7, 2.8.
Okay.
The population is going up about 1.8% a year, and we have seen about a 14% increase. So this concept of we're pushing motorcycle deaths and lung cancer deaths over to COVID is factually true.
Okay, so wait, you said there's 2 to 3 million deaths a year. What did you say?
About 2.7, 2.8, 2.9.
And if that increases 14%, did our population size increase 14% in a year? What is 14% of 2 million?
14% of 2 million. Now we're doing math quizzes here. 14% of 2 million would be all the black people in 2 million.
So 14% of 2 million is over what? 200,000 deaths? 280,000 deaths? So is this like lining up with about where we think the coronavirus deaths might be? Like, or do you think that that's just like a totally like we have a do you think we have a 14%?
The coronavirus deaths are 900,000
in 1 year?
No, since the beginning of the coronavirus epidemic.
Which is like what, 3 years, 2 years, 2.5 years?
Yeah, just over 2 years. So I guess we're up to 250 a year. So is that where we're at?
So if the excess deaths for like 2 or 3 years has been about 200 to 300,000 a year over what we expected, why would you assume that's a natural growth and not just, wow, maybe an extra 600?
Oh, I'm not assuming it's a natural growth. No, let me be clear about this. The coronavirus pandemic is a very serious disease. It is the most contagious thing we've ever dealt with in the history of global medicine. I don't want to go back to the plague, but it's that levels of contagious. It is mind-numbingly contagious. Every doctor I talk to shits his pants about how contagious this is. It's amazing. However, it's not particularly damaging. It's not Ebola or this.
Doesn't have to be, right? Yeah.
If it was Ebola or the swine flu, we'd all be dead. This would be the bubonic plague.
Sure. So
luckily, it only affects olds and fats and pre-existing conditions.
I gotcha. If you had to take a guess.
See, look at this. We started this debate about Joe Rogan, and now we're deciding if COVID is a serious disease or not.
Sure. So we're not. You're thinking that. I'm not. I'm not thinking that. So let's say in 2019, if you had to guess, okay, how many people think died of heart disease? I'll give you a hint. It's the number one killer of people in the United States.
Are you Googling this as we talk? I don't have a computer.
Yeah, sure. I'm just asking you.
Did you Google that?
No, I have every fact memorized at the top of my head, actually. I talk about this stuff so often.
Okay, so now you sarcastically avoid the fact that you're sitting there.
Are you accusing me of sarcasm? I would never Google in a debate, sir. That is one of the most dishonorable things I could ever think of. Well, on the internet, we debate bros take that very seriously.
It's not so much dishonorable as
it's
boring.
Horrible. Yeah.
Like we're in a bar. The debate should be in a bar. You're not allowed to pull out your phone.
Okay, so we're debating in a bar when you say, did you know that 2.4 million excess deaths were reported and 14% is the increase year over year? That's a bar stat to you? You would pull that at a bar when you're talking to somebody. Okay, well, this is my bar stat. I happen to have...
Where's my computer, fuckhead?
Don't you have a fucking cell phone?
Yeah, but I'm not looking at it.
Well, that's not my problem.
What? We're talking about who's looking up shit as they talk.
I didn't say I'm looking up shit, but you're complaining to me that you don't have access to your cell phone. I don't know if your mom took it from you or if you're in trouble or grounded or what. If you have it on, you pull it out.
Are you looking up shit as you talk?
I would never do that, sir.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic.
I'm never sarcastic. I'm high spot functioning autism. I can't be sarcastic. It's not in my nature to be sarcastic.
That also sounds sarcastic.
Tell him, James, I can't be sarcastic.
That's a good question, but we do. Don't get me wrong, it is entertaining. But I do have to say, in terms of, for example, Rogan and the any sort of vax skepticism, anything that might be discussed there.
Oh yeah, we were just about to move on to that, but I was just curious how many people Gavin thought died every year of heart disease. I just wanted to know that. That's what I talk about when I go to the bar. Is how many people died of heart disease. Yeah.
I'm going to guess how many people die of heart disease.
Yeah, about.
I'm going to say 300,000.
Okay. Close. It's about, in 2019, I think, I'm just off the top of my head, I think it was 659,041 people.
Oh, that's not close.
Yeah, it was within like the order of magnitude, okay? In 2020, that number went up to like 700,000. So we didn't hide it in heart disease deaths, okay? Cancer deaths in 2019 were about 599,601, if my memory serves me correctly. That number went up to over 600,000.
Yes, but Destiny, there's a Venn diagram where COVID subsumes those deaths too.
No, because you can only have one cause of death on a death certificate.
You're adding 700 plus 200. You're up to like 900,000. That's all of COVID ever. How many people died now?
In 2020, there were 350,000 new deaths due to COVID-19. None of these other categories saw a huge decrease in deaths. Most of them went up. Strokes, Alzheimer's, diabetes, all these things went up.
It's a myth that flu deaths had vanished and they all got pushed into COVID.
Influenza is marked as influenza and pneumonia. Now, there were a lot of pneumonia deaths that were marked. Now, maybe that was because of the coronavirus and they should have been counted as coronavirus. So maybe the coronavirus should be even higher. But the influenza and pneumonia deaths for 2020 were about 53,500, if memory serves me right.
Yeah. So we have to discuss, did flu deaths vanish or did they not vanish? Because the story that I've been told is that flu deaths are down to almost nothing and they all got pushed into COVID. Is that a lie?
My understanding is influenza things basically vanished, yes.
So that's odd, isn't it?
Not really. If we're taking unprecedented
we cured
steps.
Influenza.
Well, no, but we all took steps to be less infectious in society. Doesn't it make sense that an infectious disease would probably decrease?
Dude, why you want to win this debate so bad?
I'm just asking a question. It's like you're saying that just because we told everybody to stay home, drunk driving accidents decrease. Well, that's possible.
And you're like, yeah, I got to win this, bitch. Sorry, fuck you.
So do you think that it's unfathomable that as we take historic steps to decrease our interaction with each other, that maybe influenza deaths might have decreased quite a bit?
And diseases were obliterated. We lost influenza.
How many people
We
do you
didn't
think
go out.
How
We
many
didn't have
people?
herpes.
Okay.
Did herpes disappear?
Look, both hands. I'm holding both hands up here, so I'm not looking it up, okay? How many people do you think die of influenza every year? What do you think is the number?
Jesus Christ, what an scintillating debate this is. Hey, kids, tune
you
in,
started it
where
with
we
the number
guess-
thing. You
we
started with the
guess
number thing.
Influenza. Hey, guess how many kids had polio in
So
1927?
it's fun when you do it, when you have your memorized stat, but it's not fun when we look at any other
Well,
data point.
mine were
I'm
pretty
sorry.
more. They're much more serious. It's
Oh,
how many
very
Americans
serious.
die every year.
Okay.
That's a little more than how many old ladies couldn't breathe in 2020.
American old ladies, excuse me.
Influenza. I'm gonna give you fucking.
It's like the number. You don't have to guess. The number. It's like
50,000.
that's a really bad flu season. On average, I think it's like 10 to 15,000. Okay, we don't have
Okay,
all
way
these
too
people.
high.
Yeah, we don't have
Way
all these
too
people
high.
that are dying. of the
Welcome
flu
back
every year,
to Guessing the Numbers with Destiny and Gavin.
Exactly.
We'll be guessing the population of Papua New Guinea after the break. Please stay tuned. And also, we're going to guess what 377 times 17 is. It's probably a lot. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Okay.
This debate was supposed to be about Joe Rogan and is he more bad than good?
Well,
And
so
my contention is, if I may sort of try to steer this beast, and if I'm wrong, then steer it back. But I'd like to steer this beast too. Joe Rogan should have the right to speak, and within the same sort of paradigm, Westerners don't like the mandates. They're pissed off. The mandates may be good. For example, brushing your teeth before and after, when you wake up, when you go to bed, is great for cavities. Wearing a helmet 24 hours a day is good. You will not get head injuries. It will definitely reduce the number of injuries in the country. But Americans, and I'm happy to see Canadians, don't like to see this shoved down their throat. So Joe Rogan can have an open platform and discuss whatever the fuck he wants with anyone. They can have any theory. Pedophilia and the Holocaust are the most controversial ones. That's another thing. But he should be able to discuss coronavirus with anyone, any of their theories. And I don't believe harm comes from that. Information is only good. All news is good news.
Even if it's
And then
fake
as
news.
far as the rebellion goes,
what
the
if the
rebellion
news
is
is
based
just
on the hatred
what if
of
the
man.
news is just wrong? What if it's like fake?
Fantastic. Go bananas. I've had flat earthers on my show.
I'm not asking if you've had flat earthers on your show. We're asking if he does more harm than good. And if you platform a bunch of fake misinformation and people believe it and it's not real, is that a good thing? Or do you think it's just
Destiny,
like a meme or what?
Can I just call you Steve? Destiny is the gayest fucking name I've ever come
typically go
across.
by Steven, but I know how much of a kick
Where
you
did
get
you
out of
come
calling
up with Destiny? Did you go to strip clubs in the South too much?
Absolutely. That you're getting a lot
What
of
does
mileage out of the
destiny mean?
Louisiana joke.
Are you our destiny? What does destiny mean?
It's your destiny to be incredibly frustrated by debating me when you can't see me on the screen. That your
It's
destiny
like calling
is to
yourself
do
devotion
math.
or like
Originally,
Shaniqua.
I was going to be the Count Dracula guy from the Sesame Street because I love numbers and multiplication.
That's
so
funny
much.
at least.
So, yeah.
Be Count Chocula. That's hilarious.
But I
Destiny
started
is-
gaming back in like
it's like
2010 and
sub-gay.
2011, and the gay acceptance wasn't as high, so I thought Destiny would be a little bit better than a questionably.
Gays don't even call themselves Destiny. It's like
Okay,
it's a stripper who's been abused her whole life.
gotcha.
Anyway,
So do you
Steve,
think that so we were talking about mandates or Joe Rogan? Because you did a whole segment on mandates. I don't know why.
because I think that the danger with Joe Rogan is people won't get vaccinated. And the understanding is that people who don't get vaccinated are stupid and crazy, and they've been brainwashed by Joe Rogan's into thinking that the vaccine is bad. That's not true. The reason that the truckers are in Canada, the reason that there's
The
a
truckers
convoy
in
coming
Canada
up,
have to do with anything? Why are we talking about the truckers in Canada?
because if Joe Rogan's show is dangerous, then the vaccine is good and it's being whitewashed by Joe Rogan to be bad or blackwashed, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
And so all the trucker convoy in Canada is an example of people taking Joe
Holy
Rogan
shit.
like propaganda and using it to destroy the country and destroy their lives.
Do you normally have like a Glenn Beck whiteboard on here where you're drawing like all the lines and shit? Is this like Charlie and it's always I'm trying to follow the. So
If
Joe
Joe
Rogan
Rogan's
is bad,
bad,
then the vaccine is good, and truckers are in Ottawa protesting the mandates and the lockdown because what was the link back to Joe Rogan there?
Well, I'll say it slowly.
Okay,
'cause
yeah.
You talk
'Cause
like a fucking chipmunk.
You're trying to like
who's-
match my
who's
speed, and I'm
doing
getting lost because I'm
methamphetamines.
normally the only one on
Are
Adderall.
you on
in my
Adderall?
debate.
Do you do Adderall? Are you on Adderall right now?
Only for my most challenging debates. So I hyped up for this one. Okay.
Okay, good. I'm glad you chilled out. If Joe Rogan's COVID information is bad,
Yeah.
then you would have rebellions where people say, I'm not taking the vaccine.
Okay.
One of such rebellions going on right now is happening in Canada. There's many more coming up.
Okay. I don't see how those connect.
Really?
Do you think the rebellion in Canada is caused by Joe Rogan, or Joe Rogan telling people
No,
not to, or
I'm
what is the
saying-
connection?
We're talking about the dangers of misinformation.
Yeah.
And in the context of this debate,
Uh-huh.
the dangers of misinformation are people not taking the vaccine seriously. Correct?
Okay, that's one of them. Yeah.
Okay, that's one of them, yeah. Dude, don't do that or I'm going to fucking
I'm so sorry.
strangle you.
My bad. Okay. You don't even
This
know what I
is a
look like. I
millennial
could
thing.
be I could be huge. I could be like a 6'8" black guy.
No, I don't- I'm
Okay,
not into
with
violence.
massive muscle. Okay, well, because you threaten me.
I
might
fight
be
people
huge.
every day
Okay.
that are bigger and smaller than me.
Gotcha.
I'm not talking about beating
Equal
you up.
opportunity assault. I appreciate
but people laughing at people they're talking to
Okay.
is not acceptable here.
My bad. So we draw the line. It's after the Destiny stripper jokes, but before I laugh at you while you're talking to me. That's the.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Naming yourself Destiny,
Uh-huh.
that's like naming yourself It. Or naming yourself fucking someone who already has a name, like Johnny Knoxville. I'm Stevie Knoxville. It's clearly embarrassing. It's begging for ridicule. But laughing
Okay,
at someone
gotcha.
when they're making a valid point assumes that their valid point is bullshit.
Okay.
So you can't be sarcastic, which you said you were incapable of.
Okay.
You can't be sarcastic
I'm not
and
being.
patronize someone
When I laugh
when they
at
have
you,
a
that's
valid
not
point.
sarcasm.
So
It's
what we're
genuine
discussing
humor on
here
my side. Yeah.
Ed,
Okay. Go ahead.
is Joe Rogan's information. Let's assume that he's having these people on his show that say the vaccine is bullshit, don't get it, right?
Right.
That's our worst case scenario
That's
here.
the worst case. If the vaccine is good and he's saying it's bad and they're not getting it. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So worst case with that is they have these big rallies where they go across the country saying don't get the vaccine, the mandates are wrong.
That could be
Right?
one potential outcome. Yes.
All right. Now, my point is, these people who are protesting, everyone assumes they're anti-vaccine. They're not. They're anti-mandate. Even the guy that Rogan had on his show, he's vaccinated. He's not anti-vaccine. He's anti-mandate. And Americans and Canadians don't like being told what to do, even when it's the right thing. And I would argue, this is a little outside the box, that the Civil War was not about slavery. It was the South saying, wait, what are you're telling me to do a thing? The thing could have been, we're changing traffic lights from green to red. And they would have fucking died to the tune of 650,000 because they cannot handle being told what to do.
Okay.
Americans, Canadians, true Westerners don't like being told what to do, no matter how valid it is.
Why do we have laws at all then?
Why do we have laws at all? Because the laws that we have, the murder laws, the free speech laws, they've been tried and tested and true, and we all came up with them together. It's when it's not a unison. It's when the tyrants come up with it on their own, and they say, I've decided this would be best for you. We're doing this mandate. That's when people get pissed off, when we're not a democracy.
Okay, but
This
aren't we
country
voting
and
on the
Canada
leaders
are
that are-
democracies. So we have to work together to come up with these plans. When you unilaterally decide to fuck me over, I don't care if it's brushing my teeth 3 times a day. Fuck you.
Until like very recently, in Canada, wasn't there generally popular support behind the mandates?
I don't know. I don't have Google on me.
Okay,
I don't
well,
know what
isn't
you're
that-
talking about
isn't that-
mandates.
isn't that-
what were the mandates
that-
that were popular? Was it you have to be vaccinated to operate on a child?
No, well, it was the vaccinated across the border is a trucker thing, but I'm pretty sure they dropped that because that's enforced on the U.S. side. So no matter how much you protest, that's not changing in Canada. But I mean, all of the social distancing measures, the mask mandates, the whatever vaccine passports. I don't know if they're doing that in Canada.
Wait, social distancing measures are not mandates.
My understanding is that most people
A mandate
in
is
Canada
you have to get the vaccine or you're fired. That's a mandate.
Is that the only step that they took in Canada to ensure the safety of citizens?
No, you're changing it. You're pivoting
I'm
as
not
you keep
pivoting.
accusing everyone else of doing.
Excuse me,
A
sir.
mandate
I
is
am not
you have to
pivoting.
get the vaccine or you're fired. That's what everyone who's sane objects to.
Okay, but that's not the only thing in Canada that they've done to counteract the
No one's saying,
coronavirus.
no one's saying that. That's not why there's a convoy. The convoy is about do this or you're fired.
Okay,
And
so the
that's
convoy is
rage in
only
America
about.
too.
Okay, so the
And
convoy
there
is,
should be rage.
Okay, so the convoy is only about the vaccine mandates then?
Yeah. You think it's about 6 feet apart?
No, I think it's about like replacing the government in Canada because you guys are never getting rid of the vaccine mandates because they're enforced on the U.S. border side. I think that it's just everybody's just mad and
Wait,
they want to
what?
protest some shit.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I don't mean this in a negative way. I'm not trying to criticize you.
Oh, thank God, because I
have
thought you were about to say
fucking
something.
clue.
Yeah.
I have no fucking clue what you mean by what you just said.
What's that? Say that again.
Oh, do we have a soundboard?
That was a funny comedy drop.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Don't do those, Ryan. They derail the conversation.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, Ryan. I feel like you just Jon Stewarted my fucking Crossfire show, and now my brain is
Yeah.
fogged.
Why are you wearing
Let
a
me-
bow tie? Everything
Hold
you
on.
do is a lie.
Let me-
You're trying to have a political discussion, and you're out here doing political theater.
Okay,
Oh,
let me-
Tucker
let me-
lost his career.
Let me bring it back, okay? So, my understanding was that initially, the truckers wanted to protest the vaccine mandates at the border. That when you crossed into the Canada border, that you would either have to prove that you'd taken a negative PCR test or a PCR test and gotten it back negative or had to be vaccinated. And originally, the trucker people were going to protest that, but then they realized, oh shit, the United States enforces this same rule. That when you're going to the United States, it's the same thing. So they're like, well, fuck, there's no reason to protest this because it seems like, well, it's not going to change on the U.S. side, so why the fuck does it matter if truckers are going back and forth anyway? So now there's like a general debate over all of the measures that the Canadian states or provinces have taken to tell people what businesses are closed or the capacities in places or whatever shit they have for the pandemic. It's like a general
Most
protest.
truckers are national. Most truckers are not going back and forth over the border.
Okay, then
So
why were
a
any of
trucker
them
from
opposing?
Vancouver is
It
on
was-
his way
it
to
was about
Ottawa.
the
It's on
bor-
its way to Washington. There's too much tariffs and bullshit and red tape for them to be zigzagging across the border. Canadian truckers deal with Canada generally. American truckers deal with America.
I don't even know if that's true. I thought that
I just made it up, but it sounds good.
Okay, well, you know what? I actually just Googled it, and that's not true. 64% of Canadian
Finally, a
truckers.
joke!
64% of Canadian truckers actually go back and forth between the United States and Canada.
Okay. What are we arguing here? We're discussing whether we're talking about the bad sides of Joe Rogan's disinformation.
You brought up
And
the
the bad
truckers. Why
side
you're the
is-
one that wanted? I was still trying to build out the connection on your map to figure out how the fuck the truckers listened to Joe Rogan and decided to protest. I was still waiting for that. I didn't get that connection. I played too many video games, and I think the Adderall fucks with my short-term memory. Not that I took any.
I agree.
And I'm having trouble connecting it. But let's move on from this topic. Because
How long is this debate going to be? Because I want to have a long talk with you, Destiny, about your life.
I think James said we weren't going to go over 4 or 5 hours for this. How long did he say?
That's right. Only 3 hours left.
Okay.
We've got about 10 minutes left until we go into the Q&A, folks. So if you have those questions, fire them into the old live chat, and we're going to wrap up the open conversation shortly.
Okay, here's a question for Gavin. I'm curious, okay? Not even a Google question. Do you think that if we took a random sampling of US citizens, we had a group of people that didn't listen to Joe Rogan and a group of people that did listen to Joe Rogan, who do you think is more likely to be vaccinated?
Obviously, the people who listen to Joe Rogan are going to be less likely to be vaccinated, but I don't think that is due to Joe Rogan.
You don't think that he might
The
play
right
a little bit
tends
of a
to be
part in
less
that?
vaccinated than the left.
Sure.
And lefties don't enjoy Joe Rogan as much as righties do.
But don't you think that
If you polled country music fans
Uh-huh.
and rap, or no, not rap fans, actually, you wouldn't like where that one goes.
I'll go
if
anywhere
were
you want to
if-
go. Go ahead.
If you were to poll country music fans and like indie rock fans, you would find way more vaccinated people with indie rock fans. That doesn't mean that indie rock
I
makes
haven't
people
heard.
get vaccinated.
I didn't know that fucking Green Day or whatever, or that's not indie rock, put out a song saying featuring Dr. Robert Malone, Boulevard of broken myocarditis patients who got the COVID-19 vaccine. Right? Joe Rogan very specifically
Mumford
deals.
Sons,
Oh,
Mumford
did
and
they?
Sons have supported Joe Rogan.
Okay, I must have missed that album where they talk about.
Is part of the Joe Rogan scene, and he's supported by Skrillex.
Okay.
Eagles of Death Metal support the anti-vaccine scene. So
I think that it's
doesn't
probably.
work.
I think it's pretty safe to say that Joe Rogan has a fan base that is probably less likely to be vaccinated than the general population, and Joe Rogan seems to say repeatedly he's very critical of the vaccine. He'll kind of say
to say. Is your lawyer helping you with these quotes?
Hold on. I don't have to answer that question in this format right now, actually, is what I've been told. What
Joe Rogan said, the worst thing I heard him say was, he said, if someone was 29 and in good shape and they said, should I get the vaccine? I'd tell them no.
Oh, okay. So
don't do it.
He's not giving general advice. It's just how
I'm
he
inclined to
personally
agree with them.
That's great.
I mean,
That's because
I'm 51.
you're a victim
I
of
box
misinformation.
every day. I don't think I need
You
it.
just came home from the trucker protest listening to Joe Rogan. You're a victim of the misinformation that I claim Joe Rogan is spreading.
You just said you don't do sarcasm. You're clearly terrible at jokes.
Why do you think I'm being sarcastic?
Why? You practicing? Are you trying to figure out sarcasm? You sound like one of those movies where the alien is trying to do humor, and they're like, "Hello, why did the chicken cross the road? I'm trying sarcasm for the first time in my life."
Seems like it's making you pretty upset, so I feel like I'm landing close.
Yeah, I'm furious. The only thing that makes me upset is when you snicker and giggle. Those are deal breakers. But I don't mind if you try sarcasm. Go nuts.
Okay. What if I sarcastically laugh in the middle of another one of your monologues?
I'll fucking lose it and find you.
Okay. Are you vaccinated? Maybe you won't be able to get into the United States if you're driving in your truck to get here. Okay. Anyway, so Joe Rogan audience less likely to be vaccinated, probably.
That's irrelevant. That's
Joe
irrelevant.
Rogan himself,
Let's go back to the
hypercritical of
question.
vaccines.
The question is
just Joe Rogan
is
spread
Joe Rogan doing
misinformation?
damage?
Yes.
And my point is, free speech never does damage.
Never does damage.
Never does damage.
Ever.
No, never. Fire in a crowded theater, none of it. Fucking Holocaust denial, pedophilia. I want to fucking murder them, but they have the right to say that shit.
We're not talking about if they have the right to say. We're asking if it does damage.
Is based on stories. We're based on information. You and I, like it or not, are in the information business. And the fact that we have this epoch of tattletale journalists who want to censor information is insane. It's like you're working as a fucking butcher and you're anti-meat, or you're working in the restaurant industry and you want to regulate fucking what people can have, whether they should be vegetarians or meat eaters. We want everyone to get maximum information.
Maybe
sift through it yourself.
Maybe
what do you want to do? You want the state to control Joe Rogan?
Never. I'm not talking about the state controlling Joe Rogan.
Controlling this?
Who are you talking to?
Arbitrating.
Who are you? I don't know who he's
words
talking
said?
to. James.
Who's the boss? Who's the genius who decides who can say what?
He's absolutely losing it.
We'll give a safe amount of time.
What about the doctors and the nurses who have had ICUs that have been running past capacity for fucking 18 months that are getting
doctors
tired?
And nurses getting fired.
That are getting
for
tired.
Refusing to get vaccinated.
That are getting tired. Yeah, because they represent a harm to themselves and other people that are coming into the hospital. I think it's fair to.
Why did they refuse to get vaccinated? Why did they refuse?
I don't know. It could be for a variety of reasons.
They're stupid. They're stupid nurses.
They might be. I don't know. Do you think every nurse is a genius? Are you out here to say all nurses are brave geniuses? That wasn't the position I thought you were going to say. What is my Achilles heel?
You
have no idea what my Achilles heel is.
You sit on your ass all day.
Yeah?
You don't know anyone. You can't talk about these large swaths of people.
Who's talking about large swaths of people? I don't Google
people.
You're talking about people all the time.
That's a pretty large swath. What's that? I'm guessing it's 2 million people.
Where do you think my opinions come from?
Your ass, sitting down, Googling.
Okay. Only one of us here
modern journalists.
Only one of us here has pulled things out of their ass on camera before, so I don't appreciate you accusing me of that. Number one. Okay. Number two, I have these opinions.
You don't socialize. You're not a social person.
I socialize plenty. You have no idea how much I socialize. Okay? I'm an incredibly
you socialize
social
in the metaverse.
James, didn't we just socialize Like a month ago, I was down there talking to all sorts of people down in Texas.
I'm sure you do. You put your headphones on when you're in your Uber.
I even did it. I even did it without a mask. I even did it without a mask.
You think he's from Pakistan? He's not. He hates Pakistanis.
Really? So,
your Uber driver's a Sikh. And he hates Muslims because Muslims killed 1 million Sikhs.
Yeah,
you guys don't know this,
Gavin.
You're not social beings.
Gavin, I'm an adult male.
Gavin, I drive myself. You talk about immigrants.
Gavin,
you don't know immigrants.
Gavin,
you're not.
I know.
You're not out
Gavin,
there. You're not discussing things with
Gavin,
people.
I discuss
Even when you get
things
your
with
hair cut,
plenty of
when you're at the
people.
barber's, you're so fucking uncomfortable.
Psychotic.
Because you're with the working
He's having a
class person,
psychotic break
and you
right now.
don't know like what he thinks.
made fun of me for taking Adderall.
He's like a weird robot.
When he needs antipsychotics.
Gentlemen, I hate to cut in.
The ICUs are full, James. He can't get the help he needs. There's too many coronavirus patients in there. He's having a breakdown.
Now he's fucking going full on sarcasm after denying it.
That was actually the first truthful thing I said. Okay.
Again, sarcasm. Great. Welcome aboard.
Is he sarcastically accusing me of being sarcastic?
No, I'm genuinely accusing you of trying out sarcasm.
Okay, well, I was genuinely concerned that you weren't able to get into a hospital because it was overflowing with coronavirus patients to get the antipsychotics you need to not have breakdowns when we're having conversations.
All right, Sam Hyde. Welcome to the fucking metaverse. Meta irony.
That's where I'm at
anyway,
right now.
This assignment was, should Joe Rogan be able to do... No,
You've repeated this like 6 times. I feel like I'm in trouble for not doing my homework.
Is Joe Rogan doing more harm than good? And my contention is, all speech is good. All speech, no matter how evil it is. Free speech includes everything. There's no such thing as hate speech.
What if we told every person to go and shit in the pool? Do you think that that's a good form of speech? That does more good things than bad things? What if that happened?
That's irrelevant. You should have the right to say shit in the pool.
Hold on. Whether or not you have a right to say something isn't the same as saying it is good or bad. You're saying that all information is good. I'm saying there's probably some information that's bad.
It's irrelevant, but yeah.
Well, it's not irrelevant. It is actually the point of the conversation.
People should not shit in pools. But it's perfectly legitimate to have a podcast called Pool Shit. Hi, welcome back to Pool Shit.
We're not talking about whether
Today,
you
we're talking about what I did was I shat a little nugget in my mesh before I went into the pool. Then I swam to the bottom of the pool and I just sort of dropped it near the filter. No one knew. So if you guys want to shit in pools, make sure it's a solid stool and make sure it's in your undergarments before you dive in. Thanks. This has been a message from Pool Shit.
Do you think
we'd like to thank our sponsors.
Do you think that would be a good or bad information?
That's bad information.
Okay, so do you think that the listeners of Pool Shitters, do you think that those listeners might start doing things that Pool Shitters says to do? There might be a few dumb kids out there.
Possibly.
Okay.
Possibly.
So if it was the case,
the more the merrier.
That I was on a debate panel with Gavin, and I asked Gavin, hey, if I were to do a random sampling of Americans, and I look at Americans that don't listen to Pool Shitters and Americans that do listen to Pool Shitters, who do you think is more likely to shit in the pool? You would probably say, well, probably the most ardent listeners of the Pool Shitters podcast.
Dude, you sound like a communist. And I don't mean like someone with communist beliefs.
And then I would say,
you sound like a genetic communist.
Don't you think that's bad information?
You see different people. You're like, there's these people
that listen to Pool Shitters and people that don't listen to Pool Shitters.
Yeah, you're like, there's these people, they're disgusting. Then there's these people, then there's these people.
But not you. You just see everybody as a collection of traits and beauty.
They're all changing. We're all cells. We're all moving.
That's amazing.
The thing.
Can you see auras too?
The cells.
Yes.
You want the cells to have more food, more plankton. We're all growing and changing. You've already classified us as the disgusting idiots that shit in the pool and the smart people that fucking
don't shit in the pool.
Call themselves strippers.
Honest to God,
I want everyone.
I think
to be
I would have those classifications.
I
think that if I lived in a society where there was a podcast called Pool Shitters, I think I would actually, I'm going to be honest here, and maybe to the chagrin of my leftist friends, I would say, you know what? I would look down on those people that shit in pools. I would do that, Gavin.
You're
I'm
retarded because they're funny.
I'm sorry. They might be funny,
podcast
but you know what? I think I would look down on them. I actually think that might be a personal problem with me, but that's why I'm the bad kind of guy. Oh my God. Are you laughing? Excuse me. Did you just laugh in the middle of talking over me while I was trying to talk over you?
I was laughing at my own joke.
Jesus Christ. Okay. All right. Where are we at, James?
Time to move into the Q&A.
Thank God.
Our
Quote
guests
Billy
have links
Bragg,
in the
I'm the
description.
sort of bloke who laughs at his own jokes.
In the description, you can find our guest links. That includes, if you're listening via the podcast, this one coming in from Ozian, challenging question to you. Destiny says, to argue that Joe Rogan's show could be immoral for presenting misinformation would mean that you're arguing against YouTube, as it also allows flat earthers, etc. This is a tough argument for you to consistently make, they say.
We didn't even get to the ethics of is it moral or immoral. We were just saying is it good or bad to like have, or rather even does it spread misinformation or not? I don't even think we got to
No,
that.
is it better or worse for society?
Well, with regards to the coronavirus, worse.
This was coming in for you, Gavin. Not particularly on topic, but I have a feeling you might still be happy to answer. They say, Gavin, what are your thoughts on open relationships, specifically letting a wife sleep with other men?
Oh, I'm glad this came up.
Oh yeah, thank God.
This is something I
How
genuinely
do we
care
not
about.
have this conversation?
Not so much like the semantics of the vaccines. Destiny, I want to take a break from this whole discussion and have a talk with you about your future, about what's going on with your life, and how to make it better. Because I'm scared. Here's what's happened with you, right? I think you got addicted to Adderall or some sort of meth, some sort of amphetamine. They're all the same.
Okay.
And you did what anyone does. You had fans because you became famous. And you know, men do this. They buy low, sell high. So they buy high, sell low.
Oh shit.
So you saw a pretty girl that was interested in you. She's Swedish. You're obviously into white people. Most people are
For
interested
sure,
in their own
absolutely.
race.
If you look at my dating
I'm not,
history, it's
but
like
whatever.
it's all white
So you
people.
chose
all
the
way
hot
down.
Swede. Now, Swedes are poison.
Okay.
There's two reasons why they're poison.
Why is that?
One, they come from Vikings and they demand this kind of alpha toughness. I'm not saying slap her around.
Okay.
But Swedish women want dominant men to fucking say, we're doing this now. They don't want cucks who let black dudes fuck them in the ass. So
wait.
you have to
Hold
start-
on. When you say fuck them in the ass, do you mean me or my wife?
Neither.
Oh.
They don't want any of those shenanigans.
Okay.
I'm not
I didn't know
saying
who
the
the them was
shenanigans-
referring to. That was really important to me.
You can
to say.
try the shenanigans like in your college years, whatever you're experimenting, blah, blah, blah.
I can go back
So-
to college. I'm
so
as a
there's
young
two things
buck,
with your
33 years
wife.
old.
There's two things. One is they're essentially female Vikings.
Okay.
So they're not like, they don't do well when you're like, honey, I made your breakfast. Like they want you to control the show.
Wait,
or
she
you're
says
fucking
every
dumped.
morning she's so happy when I make her breakfast.
And you will get dumped.
She
like
she
Ari
gives
the
me a
Rugged
smile
Man,
and everything. What do
Ari
you
the
mean?
Rugged Man was twice the man of you, and he
Twice
got
the man.
dumped by his Swede because he
Jesus.
wasn't man enough. So you got to. But here's the other thing, and this is much bigger than you and me, and it's.
Is it black dick or what's way bigger than
There's
that?
something about races where they get to a level of, I shouldn't maybe not even say races, cultures, when they get to a level of success, they become lemmings. They become masochistic, ethno-masochistic, they become suicidal. And I believe that Swedes are like, all right, we made it to the top, fuck me. And they start like playing Russian roulette, and they start like taking in, like the way that she married you is like alien. Like she's like, oh, good, easy prey. And she's eating you right now.
Okay.
The only way you can save this marriage, this relationship,
Good chance.
is to
Wait, hold on,
is
James.
to
We're getting to
start
the most important part.
drawing the line and saying, no, I'm in control now, bitch.
Okay, can I ask you a serious question? So, right now, the rule in our relationship is she's only allowed to fuck, I think it's 4 guys a day.
I don't want to hear that.
What should I bring that down to? Gavin, what do I bring that down to?
My ear holes.
I need you to tell me.
I can't hear that.
I don't know how to
can't hear
run
that.
my life. I need you to tell me, okay? What should I bring the number down to?
I want to focus on the two things. One,
2 guys a day?
that
2 a day.
Swedes are suicidal,
2 a day.
just like Japanese.
Okay.
Just like every successful ethnic group, they start killing themselves.
Okay.
And then 2, she's a fucking Viking. She needs to be dominated. Don't
Okay.
be nice to her.
Okay.
This one
I've seen it with Colombians. Colombians are like that too for some weird
Okay,
reason.
how long do I have? Wait, hold on. I'm James. This is way more important to my life than whatever Q&A question.
Yes,
Hold on. How
yes.
long do I have until she kills herself? Should I start shopping around for another wife
No,
now?
no, she won't kill. When I say kill yourself, I meant like the entire culture is self-emulating. Is that the word? So she's not going to literally kill herself.
Oh, okay.
But
She's gonna, like,
Swedes
culturally kill herself.
And Northern
Let's jump into the
Europeans
next one.
are both figuratively and literally killing themselves. So
This
your
one coming in-
relationship has maybe a year or two left.
Okay.
But the culture of Sweden and Scandinavia, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years.
Jesus Christ.
they're
She doesn't
already-
even speak
they're
fucking
already
Sweden around the
glorifying
house. I think
euthanasia.
it's already happening. Like, she doesn't
one
speak her
from-
language anymore. She doesn't have
So this
fika
is what's
anymore.
going to
It's
happen.
like,
Potential, we move on to the
Destiny,
next
this
one.
is what's going to happen. You're going to laugh at this
Yeah.
warning.
but
you're
in
getting
3
right
years,
now.
Grandpa Gavin
And then you're going
is-
to come back to me in like 5 years.
5
And you're
years.
going to go, you're going to have like a perfect little side part. You'll be all shaved and have a tie. And you'll be like, dude, you were right. And I'm a born again Christian now. I don't do any drugs. Definitely not speed.
Not even
coffee.
Adderall?
Let's go to the next one.
And
This
I'm
one's
gonna
from-
say-
I hate to do
I'm gonna
this. Gentlemen,
say-
we have so many questions.
Destiny, you may have overshot the mark a bit here.
Uh-huh.
Jesus Christ. I'm sorry, I blasphemed. Holy cow. But you're going to be happier ultimately, but you have to hit rock bottom before you can come back up. Your relationship
rock bottom, is that like a Norwegian
with an
chick, or is it-
ethnomasochist starling?
Okay,
Your
gotcha.
wife is a starling.
Okay.
You know
Coming
what
in.
that is?
We must move on. I hate to do this,
No,
gentlemen.
I
Yeah.
got to say this one last thing, please.
One last thing, James.
Starlings
It's so important.
reported in North America. They devoured the continent because they had no natural predators.
Jesus.
Starlings are ruthless monsters.
Okay.
That come from the Siberian winters
All
of
right.
Europe.
James, I think it's time for the next question. What do we got?
Sunflower has a question for you, Stephen. They
So
say,
glad I
is
got
there
that out.
any data that indicates vaccinations decreased or alternative therapy increased as a result of Rogan's podcast?
Good question.
Actually, I have no idea. I don't know if you'd be able to, how you would be able to study, particularly if one media source influenced somebody to do something or not do something. It's probably pretty difficult.
response.
But I think that if you holistically look at the media environment you live in, there's probably data out there that shows that people that consume certain types of media are less likely to be vaccinated than other people that consume certain types of media. And
No,
my
that's
guess is
chicken or
Joe
the egg.
Rogan.
That doesn't
and my
work.
guess is that Joe Rogan, probably it would be the part of that media sphere that gets people to not take vaccines.
This one coming in from Sky Daddy Mythbuster says,
That applies to country music too, you realize.
I don't think that people that listen to country music, I don't think that country music songs are saying, today
Yes,
we're going to
but
talk
people
about
who
not-
listen to country music are less likely to be vaccinated.
I'm not talking about a simple correlation between what people like and what people do. I'm saying that
Yes,
Joe
you are.
Rogan is a causal factor because he is literally platforming
but
misinformation
you're
regarding
just saying it's
vaccines.
a causal factor, but you're using the evidence as this group likes this group likes that. That's country music.
Yeah, but I have a stronger
can't just
tie
say
because
causal
country
factor
music
and it
doesn't.
becomes a
Country
causal
music
factor.
isn't known for talking about vaccination.
I know. I
Joe
understand.
Rogan is. So there's probably a higher likelihood that somebody listening to Joe Rogan
Probably.
There-
Welcome to probably.tv.
Yeah, welcome to all social
where
sciences.
we also
where
do the
you want me to
shit
make a
pool
stronger claim
podcast.
about the
This one
starlings
must
that are?
jump.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I didn't want
Must
to
jump.
cut you off.
The
Sky
Starling
Daddy-
claim is actually pretty much more sound.
Pretty
Sky
much,
Daddy
much
Mythbusters.
more sound.
No, it's 100% more sound.
Okay, thank you, Jesus.
Sky Daddy Mythbuster
It's also
says-
100% true that Joe Rogan listeners will be persuaded into getting the vaccine by Joe Rogan himself. I talked to 3 people yesterday.
This one coming in, I think this
All
one,
3 of them were my wife's boyfriends.
I haven't talked
but-
to 3 people. My
Sorry,
theory
James,
about your
go.
wife
Don't
and
let
the
him cut you.
Starlings is
This one's
millions
coming in
of
from
people.
Sky Daddy Mythbusters. I think this one's for you, Gavin. They
Sorry.
say patients coded for COVID to avoid post-mortem lawsuits. Question: we are to believe that the medical staff doesn't know the COVID status of every single patient from time of admission to death?
I don't that you
What?
that was a lot of question marks. It sounded like
Yeah.
If there were cases where hospitals were falsely marking COVID-19 deaths, those stories would be plastered.
No
over
one's saying
every
that.
fucking everybody is saying that. That's exactly what's being said. Gavin, you need to talk to more people. Okay? Stop looking
when I
at
say
Ryan.
No one. I'm talking about this debate.
Okay.
In this debate, I'm not saying that. I am saying
the debate
they're
wasn't
casting a
are
very
Gavin and
wide net
Steven
and
misinformed
including
by Joe
their
Rogan.
COVID
Wait, that's not the
diagnosis
conversation.
And their cancer and their diabetes and everything. And I resent
person
the size
asked
of
a
that
question.
net.
The person asked me a question about Joe Rogan listeners.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that was for you. I apologize.
Okay, Jesus. Yeah, the answer was yes, James. Yeah, or no.
This one coming in from ASEAN Talk says 2019 to 2020 saw 500,000 more deaths in the U.S. Only 350,000 were reported as COVID-19 by the CDC. 2.85 million in 2019 and 3.3 million in 2020.
Thank you for that factoid. That was amazing.
Thanks.
Do you have another one of
The
those?
next person who works on the show somehow.
This one coming in from
Was that a
River
donation by
Fernandez.
Jamie? Is that guy filling? Sorry, go ahead.
River and Fernandez T both say thanks for having Gavin on. And reminder, our guests, both Gavin and Destiny, are linked in the description. Bezos anti-bullying agency says argument doesn't matter. Gavin wins by default, virtue of the fact. Okay, let's see. Aeon, thank you very much, ML, for your.
Wait, you didn't.
I'm not reading the rest of that.
Oh,
one.
the open
ML
relationship question was okay, but that one was over the line. Now I'm even more interested in what that.
ML says, let's see.
Yeah, good point, Destiny.
Jesus.
Every time I say your name, I picture a hot black chick with blonde hair.
Well, thankfully, you're not looking at me on the monitor right now, so it's 2022. I could be a hot chick with blonde hair. Surgery's come a long way.
Too much video games and fucking Adderall. That is the bane of your generation's existence.
This one.
I am
Coming
powered
away from the
by
video
video
games.
games and Adderall. It's
Stop
all that's keeping me
taking
going
Adderall.
at this point.
It's a drug. It's speed.
Aren't you? You're drinking a
We
drug
used
right
to
now,
call you
aren't
guys tweakers in the 80s.
This one coming in from Canadian Catholic says, how much criticism of lockdowns should be allowed, Destiny?
Are we talking like chastity belt lockdowns, or what kind of lockdowns are?
This
Now
one
he's
coming.
the sarcasm king.
I'm not even being sarcastic. I want you to clarify.
Oh,
because we
you
just
want
had
chastity
a 20-minute
That's
conversation
sarcastic
about
too.
my wife committing ethnic suicide or whatever. I don't know what the fuck the topic even is anymore. Is this about the chat?
Wow.
Are we talking about chastity belts for the
I'm
Ottawa
so mad that I
truck drivers?
predicted the next 5 years of your life.
You are literally Larry the Tomato Red right now on my screen, okay? There's no way that I'm the mad one here, all right? Slow down.
This from
James,
Mr. Monster.
can you
Oh,
repeat?
that's called being white. You
James.
clearly went to Sweden for a
Monster
wife
says,
because you love
okay,
white
must move to
people.
the next one.
This is what we
Hate to
look
do this,
like,
gentlemen, but
and we're
we do-
mad.
There's so many questions we have to just. Mr. Monster says, do you think that
Okay.
it would be more helpful to society if Joe Rogan actually supported vaccines?
I just like saying you support stuff. That's not what I care about. I just wish that when he brought on people to give like an alternative tale on things, he was as critical of them as he is of people that present the mainstream opinion, rather than just like filleting every person that comes on and gives like some anti-mainstream take and being wholly uncritical of everything they're saying.
I'm glad Destiny brought that up. Can I interrupt and be serious for a second?
Oh my God.
I totally get that point. That's totally valid. But we are living in a society where all of the mainstream media is one narrative. So Joe Rogan represents, I don't know, 1% of the media that is daring to say, wait a minute, how wonderful are these vaccines? So yes, I would agree that he does ass lick these people more than, say, someone on another media source. But it's because we are being bombarded with this one narrative. So when someone dares to go against it, may they please kiss the person's ass? And you've seen, by the way, what happens with him. He's fucked now. He's ruined. I'd be surprised if his daughter can get a job because he dared go against the narrative. So yeah, when it's David and Goliath, David is allowed to put a string against a rock and whip it up and throw it up into an eye. That's dirty pool to hit someone in the eye, but it's not equal standing.
This one coming in from, do appreciate your question as well. Bezos anti-bullying agency says, question for Destiny, does the concept of quote unquote misinformation undermine democracy? Basically, quote, you can all vote how you want, but you can't think or talk about what you want, unquote. Thus, it undermines democracy.
You can think or talk however you want. Me being opposed or me saying that the Pool Shitters podcast is maybe putting out bad information, I don't think that undermines democracy. I think me giving my opinion on it all is all part of the democratic process. We're all here to scream at each other and shout at each other over what we think is right, or over what we think is misinformation, and that's what we do, and that's part of the democratic process.
What did Joe Rogan say that was bullshit?
I think that the way that he brought on Robert Malone and let that guy ramble a whole bunch of bullshit studies, a whole bunch of bullshit drugs, and the fact that he was wholly uncritical of almost every single thing he said, I think that was the harm for that podcast.
So what did Joe Rogan say that was bullshit?
It's not about like one line or thing that he said. It's about the whole of the episode. People don't just watch like 10 seconds of it. It's like, what, like a 3-hour show?
What if you have a flat earther on your on your show? Is that wrong?
I think that if you had a flat earther on your show and they were like, did you know that the earth is flat and it's a big theory that all of NASA and all the world is trying to fuck us? And Joe was like, damn, that's some serious shit. Yeah, maybe, yeah. And then you started to get other people in society believing it. Yeah, I would say that's bad too. There was a time where we had fucking NBA players.
That would be
we had NBA players that were saying shit
it.
like the earth was fucking flat. So at that point in time, I would say, yeah, that would be pretty bad.
This one coming in from, do appreciate your question.
No one thought the earth was flat ever, by the way.
You don't think so? Ever? Not ever?
Mark Santola said,
It was a few radical cave people, like even 500 years ago. It was never a thing. In fact, it's more popular now than it ever was before.
This one from Mark Santola. For you, Stephen, regarding Dr. Malone, they said, Dr. Malone is a co-inventor of the mRNA vaccines, is pro-vax, and has been published over 100 times. Destiny, have you really listened to the full episode?
Malone is not the co-inventor of the mRNA vaccine, and his only contribution to mRNA research was a paper that he did as like a grad student. He owns a few patents.
No, that's false.
That is absolutely
He was
true.
one of the many contributors to the mRNA vaccine. He did not write one fucking paper.
He had zero input whatsoever.
Why are we constantly dealing with these people who have never contributed anything outside of playing some fucking video games?
Okay.
A guy plays video games.
You're out of line. You're way out of line. You're way out of line. You're way out of line. Gavin. He's
contributed. Do something. Do something besides letting people fuck your wife. Do something. The more we accomplish, the more you fucking inconsequential cunts trivialize our accomplishments.
All right,
the less you accomplish,
I didn't respond.
You trivialize other people's accomplishments.
Hold on, excuse me.
Do something. You're literally on your ass for a living. Get up.
We do have to. Go ahead, Stephen.
Fucking, are you in sweatpants right now?
Absolutely not, sir.
This one coming in from.
I didn't even get to finish answering, okay? I wrote a lot of papers. When I was in high school for English class, I wrote so many papers, okay? So the fact that I haven't done anything, I resent that comment, okay? I was in a lot of AP classes.
You got a C for cuck.
I did not get a C for cuck, okay? I got a B for bitchin', all right? So I do not think that, hold on. Robert Malone is not the co-inventor of any of the fucking vaccines. That's just not true. That's bullshit.
It is.
Okay, it's not.
What is an inventor? You contribute to the culture.
I don't know.
Of
Maybe somebody that worked on one of the companies that created the vaccine. Maybe somebody that worked in the public sector that contributed a significant amount of research towards mRNA vaccines. Not a guy that wrote one paper one time on a process for creating mRNA vaccines that ended up not even working out. None of the research that he initially did ended up panning out as being a proper way to even build an mRNA vaccine. The fact that this
That's bullshit.
When did he work on mRNA vaccines?
About 15 years before this vaccine today.
It was in the fucking, I think his paper was in 1991 or something. It was like 30 fucking years ago that this guy was writing anything about this. He's not even considered the main contributor to mRNA vaccine research. You can go and Google that if you want names for it.
What is mRNA, Destiny?
What do you mean? Do you want the abbreviation? Messenger ribonucleic acid? Do you want the function that it goes through ribosomes in your body and it's used to create proteins?
What's the concept? What does it do? Like,
what is it?
What is the technology? What cars are mobilized vehicles that are powered by gas.
The technology is you have a bunch of nanolipid particles, NLPs, that encompass a single strand of mRNA that goes into your cell, enters your ribosome, and then proteins are printed out that emulate the protein signature of the virus SARS-CoV-2. That's the function of the mRNA vaccine.
Correct. Now, to talk about the inventor of that is to talk about the inventor of punk or the inventor of hardcore or the inventor of rock. You obviously have hundreds of people who are contributing to that technology. It's not the invention of the fucking light bulb or the mousetrap. Actually, the invention of the light bulb also has almost infinite people contributing. So yes, he was a major contributor. He was not a lunatic off the street is the big picture here. He was someone who was involved in the culture of mRNA, and Joe dared speak to him. God forbid you should speak to people who are involved in the largest pandemic in history. God forbid.
Malone, if you want to say Malone, with a series of hundreds of other scientists, wrote papers all along the past 3 decades talking about mRNA research, I would have no problem with that. That's not what he sells himself as. He says he is the inventor or co-inventor of mRNA technology. That's not true. In 1987, he performed an experiment with like mRNA strands and like frogs or something, and he published a paper as a grad student. That was his contribution.
No, that's not his only contribution. He has had what 8 patents
on technology. Where are his drugs? Where are his drugs?
Involved in the culture.
Okay, cool that you have patents. Where are your drugs? I don't give a fuck what you can patent any chemical that you want. You can go into any lab and synthesize any chemical and patent it, right?
So your patents don't matter unless you have drugs for it? That's absolute horseshit.
In the medical world, you can patent all sorts of RCs, research chemicals, if you want. You can patent all sorts of things. Yeah, that's what a patent is. Yeah,
you can patent economy in and of themselves that exist below the pharmaceutical industry. You have patents, you sell patents to other companies. They then make pharmaceuticals from your patents.
Okay, what pharmaceuticals have been made? What pharmaceuticals have been made off of what pharmaceuticals
here?
What pharmaceuticals?
Samples to
what
music
pharmaceuticals
that got made into other music.
Okay, where was Dr. Robert Malone's music sampled? What album is he featured on? Is he featured on the Moderna album? Is he featured on the double-sided Pfizer album? No, he's not.
He is featured on the Pfizer
none
album.
Of these
he's
people
featured in all these albums.
No, he's absolutely not. None of those patents are relevant. None of those patents.
Listen to you.
None of those.
Listen to you.
Are you serious?
And talk about scientists who have not achieved enough.
It's not about him having achieved enough.
The more they trivialize others' accomplishments. We sound like two sports guys talking about Noah Syndergaard's pitch and how it's fallen below 100 miles an hour way too many times.
So he's not the co-creator. He's not the co-creator. He's not the
baby.
He's not the
dominate your Viking wife.
How many children do you have?
Make a baby.
How many children do you have?
3.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Next one. Yeah. Not a Trump. Thanks for your questions.
How many years have you been married?
Well, I met my wife in 2021, but we've only been married for a mere 17 years.
Okay. 17 years.
Coming in.
Yeah, a totally monogamous relationship involving 0 threesomes. Though in my heyday, I did have some threesomes because I understand the difference between fun partying and being an adult.
Gotcha.
Not a Chump says, Destiny, is it possible that there are sketchy things going on around the COVID vaccine? Is there no corruption in government or prescription drug companies?
That's an annoying question.
If there was, man, it sure would be great to see some, rather than Robert Malone going on to some podcast and spewing a whole bunch of bullshit that is meaningless and not substantiated anywhere in the literature. But,
This one coming in from Blake.
Oh, that one really pissed him off. Sorry, go ahead.
Just this idea of like siding with the government over a
It's not siding with the government. It's all the researchers that are working on this. It's not just the government. Don't be such a baby about it.
Don't talk to that person.
Don't be such a baby.
Don't talk to that person.
Biden said it, so I don't agree with it.
We're in this culture of like these tattletale journalists.
We're not talking about journalists. We're talking about academic research institutions.
You didn't get a permit.
This is part of being an adult, Gavin. Okay, it's figuring out who you can trust and who you can't trust.
Part of being
okay. When you're 4 years old and your mom and dad have a conversation about don't accept candy from the guy in the van, right? We learn this at a very young age. There are people that you can trust, people you can't trust. Okay, you can figure this out. I believe in you.
Yeah, and I'm adult enough to figure it out. Are you a child? Are you the kind of person that gets into a van because there's candy? Because you're getting in a van right now, and the candy is the tyrannical narrative of COVID in 2022.
It's like the teenager that does the exact opposite of what his parent tells him to do because he wants to be rebellious without thinking through any of his fucking.
Your wife
that's me.
Fucks men. You are in a fucking outside the box universe where nothing's real, man. You sound like fucking David Crosby on acid in 1971.
How similar does David Crosby on acid sound to Ben Shapiro on Adderall? Is there a huge overlap here in terms of?
Well, phonetically, you're Ben Shapiro on Adderall.
Okay, yeah.
But culturally, you're a stupid hippie fucking up your own life.
Gotcha. Okay.
This one coming in from Eschaton says, Vax doesn't stop the virus from spreading back and doesn't prevent infection. No one knows the long-term side effects. Vax industry's immune from civil liability, Stephen.
That's fascinating. I thought the vaccine was 100% effective, like every safety measure we take in society. Now that I found out that it's not, I'm not sure if I'll support the vaccine anymore. I don't believe in taking protective steps for anything unless it's 100%. I don't even wear my seatbelt because I don't want to get stuck in my car and die in a fire. So,
this one from Red-Blooded Republican.
He's right. That's a retarded question.
I'm looking for questions too. I'm surprised there aren't any questions for Gavin. I'm sorry.
What the fuck?
I am 51 years old. It's possible that people who watch these things aren't interested in a geriatric's opinion.
This one coming in from Red-Blooded Republican ex-Trump supporter says, question for Destiny. I've heard you say you want Brandon to have stricter jab mandates. Can you say the contents of what is in the jab?
Like, do you want like the whole fucking chemical formula of what's in a vaccine? I can't tell you what's in the chemical formula of my fucking Coke. I'm not gonna be able to tell you that.
This is falling apart at the seams.
Just
With
now
that,
it
we
is.
do
It was going
wanna
great up
remind-
until that question, though. Go ahead.
Want to remind you, our guests are linked.
I
in the
want that
description.
person with the question to know that they wrecked this whole debate.
More than Ryan did with the fucking soundboard.
Wait a minute. The person who said, hey, Destiny, do you think that the vaccine cures everyone perfectly and they're never going to have any kind of COVID? You, sir, look at yourself in the mirror. You ruined this entire night.
You know what? I bet that guy, I bet he was a
entire
big Joe Rogan fan. I bet he got that talking point right from fucking
Dude,
Joe
I
Rogan.
don't care if he's me. He ruined the fucking debate. Hey, Dad, if you're watching this and that was you, fuck you. You're dead to me.
This one coming
I'm outta
in
here,
from Mr. Monster says, what right does Gavin have to say what Destiny does in his life and assume what he does with his wife? Oh, no, let's not go there after all. Let's wrap up. We want to say thank you very much.
Okay, hold on. I got to ask, what did you not read earlier that you're reading all of these? I have to know. I have to know.
Can I just throw out my motive? My motive is Destiny's happiness. My motive is everyone's happiness.
Thank you.
I come from Canada where everyone is thinking outside the box and they're like, what about this? What about instead of eating out your wife, you take a shit in her cunt?
All
Or
right.
what about you blow your dad?
Let's move into the
That's
next one.
friendship.
We do want to say thank you very much, folks, for all of your questions. Thank you for Stephen and Gavin for being with us tonight. And with that, we hope to see you in future debates. Have a good night, everybody.
That's it? Okay.
Unless there were any topics you hadn't. Well, we do have one. This is one for Gavin. John Smont says, Gavin.
Wait, hold on. Hold on. I got an important
bizarre
question.
ending.
Hold on. Gavin, because Gavin is talking about being concerned for everybody's happiness. If I'm
Yes.
letting 4 or 5 guys fuck my wife, aren't we technically making more men happy? If I'm miserable and those other 4 or 5 guys are happy, aren't I actually contributing more to the world?
When you shit your pants, it feels good. Isn't that better for the world? You're shitting your pants.
Well, no, but this is more like I'm letting 5 other guys shit in my pants, so they get the good feeling, and I just have to
that
carry around.
does feel better.
So, do you think that is it worth it for all of their happiness
Doesn't
to
it feel
increase?
good when you have to go pee really bad and you stop running towards the bathroom and you just piss your pants? So the fact that it feels good temporarily is not good in the long
but
term.
overall, it's gonna fuck everybody up.
The only thing that's going to work for you, and I'm the least traditional guy in the world. Dude, I have a back tattoo of Chiang Shek and Fidel Castro being eaten by an octopus with a skull face.
Jesus.
So
Christ.
I invented outside the box, okay?
Okay.
The idea of we don't need marriage, blah, 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 it's a super fun thing in your early 20s. But you went and got a starling from Europe, and she's going to devour you and everyone around you unless you can keep that cute little starling in control, because it is a fucking phoenix on fire. That thing is it's a fucking flailing, fiery bird that has a wingspan as big as a city block. You need to control her or you're all going to die.
Look at that beautiful, beautiful bird.
Ask R.A. the Rugged Man. He was consumed by a phoenix, just like you.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm so sorry, James, for cutting off. What was your final question you had there? It was one for
No
Gavin.
problem. There was one from Marty in particular. Marty Mad Scientist said, Gavin, the legal procedure for coding death regarding COVID or not is well documented, and said, why are you misrepresenting it? So they're accusing you of misrepresenting it.
Oh, huge call
not
out there, Gavin.
misrepresenting
Good
it.
luck.
So the death certificate will say stage 4 cancer. On the same certificate, it is COVID is included.
That's not even a death certificate. I just saw it. You're lying. You're misrepresenting the facts. What you just held up
I'm
there?
not
I'm looking it up. That's not
misrepresenting
a death. Show the camera. Is that a death certificate? Because you held it up like one.
This is all a list of all the girls I fucked in high
That's
school.
right. Okay. Oh, one at a time,
I don't
right?
know why that's here.
Oh, you did threesomes.
No,
only
yes,
before you
there
were married.
is
My
the
bad.
main
Okay.
source. They say that they died, but on that form, please believe me, it's a fact that COVID is included. You know this. Look it up. Motorcycle accident, dies. COVID is included. It's always included in these forms. And the big thing I was trying to say earlier is it's not malicious.
Okay,
It's not
wait.
like they're
What if
looking
the
for a
guy?
payout.
What if the guy was driving his bike and he had a bad cough and that made him lose control and he died? Isn't that a COVID death? Don't you think that's legitimate?
That's why they include it, because they don't want to get sued in case he coughed and fell.
Because Harley
But
Davidson
my
would be
point
like,
is,
"Yeah, you're fucking."
But
yeah.
that fucks with the statistics.
True. Okay.
Thank you, by the way. For
But if he
supporting
didn't
my
have
point.
COVID-19, and he didn't cough, he would still be alive, right? So isn't
Can we
that
end
fair
it
to call
right
it?
when Destiny supported my point, please? Let's pretend there's some sort of feedback. We can't. Hello.
James.
I can't.
This one
What's
coming in from
James, there's
your
feedback.
question, Ryan.
It's just
Ryan
all I
Rockwell-
see is snow.
Ryan Rockwell said, for Gavin, they said, could it be that the quote unquote mainstream narrative is so quote unquote one-sided because people are independently converging on the objectively true, stance?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's happened. That happened with Obama's election. That happened with Russiagate. That happened with Trump and the grab the pussy. That happened with so many fucking lies. Go back to Obama with Fast and Furious. Why do you think 64% of Americans have zero trust in media? Because we've been getting lied to persistently and increasingly since 2008. So now it's at a level of absolute hyperbole. Like, people watch the news to laugh at this point, not because it's true, you fucking pussy. Oh my God. Imagine watching the news today and going, holy shit, that's intense. I did not know that. It's all fucking lies. And I would argue that more than Joe Rogan, this bullshit media constantly fucking up, tripping over themselves with lie after lie after lie, from Russiagate, from everything Project Veritas exposes, constant lying, constant, what do they call them? Nothing burgers, again and again and again. That may have killed more Americans than anything else. Because they go, well, that's not true. And you told me to get the vaccine, so I'm not going to get it. Maybe we have a bunch of old and fat people who should have had the vaccine, who didn't get the vaccine because they don't trust the media, because fat asses like that turgid tattletale, Brian Stetler and Don Lemon and Chris weight pumping Cuomo lied so often and so persistently that the boy cried wolf. And they didn't trust the media anymore.
Thank you very much.
I'll tell you what, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Copenator says, Destiny, if Joe Rogan's misinformation shouldn't be aired, how should we handle CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News? Everyone has confirmation bias.
If people lie about shit or they misrepresent shit, people should call them out on it, bully them for it. I'm not here saying my position's never been like, I don't think Joe Rogan, yes, a debate, thank God, because what we're doing here on this show is unique, okay? People don't have good conversations like this anymore, all right? They're just busy doing dumb shit on their podcast.
I literally can't tell if you're being sarcastic, but that's true.
Exactly. So
I'm not
trying to, I'm not being sarcastic, okay? I don't think that.
You shouldn't have brought up that you can't be sarcastic, because now I'm filtering everything through that quote.
I'm not saying that Joe Rogan should be deplatformed. That's not what, I don't give a fuck about shit like that. I just wish that he would be more critical of some of the people that he brings on and, just spread that around a little bit. Spread the critical thinking around.
Why don't you shave your beard, put on a suit, and take your wife on a date?
Hold on. You said that you couldn't see me. Why do you think I have a beard?
I've researched you painstakingly for 58 hours. I've stayed up on crack and meth researching this because I was so petrified you'd humiliate me.
Jesus.
And I can't believe that you were such easy prey after all of this preparation.
I haven't brought up butt plugs or urine a single time, but you seem to be going real deep into attacking my life.
What's the butt plugs? Is that your smoking gun?
No, not at all. James, what's the next question?
Well,
I guess it could smoke depending on how fast you did it. But what would you say, James?
All we have for tonight for our questions.
A butt plug up an ass smoking would be maybe 8 million miles an hour.
Have you done the math on that? Is that something that did you Google that, or is that another bar stat that you just happen to know?
I'm guessing.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
Educated guess. I actually looked it up, and it's actually only 3 million miles per hour. So you were off by like 50%.
I'm still pretty happy with 8 million. 3 million, 8 million as far as butt plug speed.
Okay.
I prefer to dry out the anal lips.
We will close with that. Want to say, folks,
yours are probably not dried up at all
tuning
because
in
you were just
tonight.
treated to a giant black man's cock.
We will go into
moisten them up with some
wrapping up with
mounds of KY.
So I want to say thanks everybody for hanging out with us tonight. Description box has our guest links. Want to say thanks so much to our guests. It's been a true pleasure to have you.
Wait, who's the guest? Me, or did you say guests? Both of us.
Yes, both of you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad to have been here. This was good.
Fuck you all. I hope you die.
Why are you drinking Budweiser?
We'll
oh
be
my
back
god.
in just a moment, folks, with a post-credit scene.
What do cucks drink? Fucking IPA?
I don't drink beer because beer is gross. Okay, I drink hot chocolate.
Oh, you just do speed until you're so fucking brainwashed by your own bullshit.
Exactly. If I drink alcohol, I'm
reinvent
worried
the
that it's
world.
gonna, fuck with any of the other 7 drugs that I have to take to stream for 36-hour stretches, and I just can't really risk that. With my health and fighting all those guys off my wife every time I.
You can't take a joke I did earlier and make it a real thing, and then make fun of me for it. That's just not how jokes
I can do
work.
whatever the fuck I want to do.
No, you can't.
I
That's
absolutely
sarcasm, and you don't do sarcasm. Comedy has parameters.
Oh, does it?
So
now?
there's a world that you create.
Well, earlier,
And then
didn't you
within
accuse
that
me of
world-
being Sam Hyde? Doesn't he break parameters all the time? Isn't that what he does?
Yeah, you're not. That's very advanced. Sam Hyde.
You're the
is
one that made the
fucking
comparison to me earlier
Mike
about him.
Tyson
So.
of
Yeah, and I'm
comedy.
aspiring.
So you have to.
I'm aspiring
you can't
to that.
get
okay?
to that level.
I'm trying to. Okay. All
I
right.
better jump.
No,
back
don't.
on.
It's, if it's not your thing, don't do it.
Well, I don't know if
join
it's my
the
thing
NBA.
yet. I'm trying
Don't
to.
join the NFL.
I'm
It's not
working
your
my
thing.
way there.
I'm
Not the
not
NBA or the
saying it should
NFL,
be.
but I think Sam Hyde's sense of humor is a little bit more in reach than either of those two things. But I'm a shorter guy, so. Okay.
you guys.
Are you
Don't
good? I love
call
you,
me
James.
short.
I love you guys.
Okay.
Take care. I hope you have a good night.
Yep. See you guys later.
Thank you very much.
I already said fuck you all.
Take care.